all the bits. Juice with all the bits. It's a podcast.
Hi everyone, I'm Meg.
And this is Daniel.
And you are listening to Juice with all the bits.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode. This one is quite a special episode. We've got our 10-year anniversary of the Juice Academy. So in this episode, we've got two really special guests here with us. We've got the person who is essentially the reason why we're here all today, Sandy, who created the Juice Academy. Sandy, Lindsay, hi. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. Thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to have you and to get into all about the Juice Academy. And we've also got our director of the Juice Academy, Georgia Fitzgerald, here with us today. Hi, Georgia. How are you?
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Meg. Good, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for being here. And as usual, we're going to kick us off with our apprentice highlight.
Yeah, so as always, we do our apprentice highlight. And for those who don't know what this is, where have you been? You need to get listening to our previous episodes.
Right.
But what we do is each episode we have an apprentice highlight to showcase all the amazing things our apprentices are doing. And today's apprentice highlight goes to Beth Evans. So she works at Lullabells and she's been doing an incredible job working with some big celebs, and she's been managing a lot of the social media and doing an incredible job with like responding to trends and stuff that have been going on recently. So a massive well done to Beth.
Well done, Beth. Woo. Amazing. So without further ado, we're going to jump straight into the questions. So as I mentioned, this is a 10-year of Juice anniversary kind of special episode. We'll be discussing all of that. Meg, shall we kick off?
Yeah, so we want to sort of know a bit about where it all began. So sort of like what started the Juice Academy. So Sandy, I'll pass that to you.
Right, okay. It was basically we at Tangerine, which was back then a PR company, bought a digital agency called Juice Digital. And we saw that the future of marketing was going to be digital, that it was going to be social media. And we wanted to grab it. We wanted to really get into it as quickly as possible. Not many PR agencies or any agencies were getting into it back then. But we couldn't staff it. We couldn't find people to employ. Because back then, if you think about it, digital marketing, social media was very, very new. So there was literally no such thing as a qualified digital marketing specialist. They just didn't exist. And everybody in the industry was saying the same. And we thought, well, instead of kind of joining in with the whinging of this horrible skills gap that we've got, why don't we try and fix it? And let's not just fix it for ourselves, for Tangerine, but for the Northwest as well. Yeah. So that's kind of where the idea of the Juice Academy came from.
Amazing.
Oh, that is incredibly fascinating. What have been some changes you've seen over the past 10 years of the Juice Academy?
Well, there's been a lot of changes. So first of all, that's the way that our industry is. It's so fast-paced, everything's constantly changing all the time. I think because of the fact that we're part of Tangerine, we've been able to keep up with that constant change and, you know, staying at the top of our game, at the top of trends. A lot of has changed with apprenticeships as well. They used to be more sort of structured and rigid on something called frameworks, and then in 2017 they changed to standards and became more flexible really, which was great for us in Tangerine because it's kind of what we always wanted to do. So it just allowed us to do more of teaching what we know somebody needs to have in the industry. And it's just gone from strength to strength since then, and the qualification that we focus on now is the Content Creator Level 3, so it's all on that content marketing, and it's really creative, and it's a brilliant programme.
Have you noticed any sort of trends in terms of the types of companies that hire apprentices?
Well, it's a real split now between sort of agencies and in-house. I think what we've seen over more recent years is more companies bringing in marketing teams in-house, and so bringing in the apprentices to support those marketing teams. But at the same time, we still work with lots of digital agencies who, you know, just sort of like grow their full digital teams. And I think the teams are starting to split as well. Within agencies, you might have a content team, a digital team, a creative team, a studio team, and that's relatively a newer thing over the past sort of 5 years, I'd say.
And also, what you find was back in the day, creative agencies and the marketing departments within house companies were quite negative about apprenticeships. They used to always employ grads We always want a grad, we don't want an apprentice. And we've seen that change massively over the years, and now the belief in apprenticeships is totally different.
Yeah.
So that's been a big change, definitely over the last 10 years.
Well, a lot of people used to have on their job descriptions, must be degree educated.
Yeah.
So, for us trying to get in the door with employers that had that, it's really difficult, because it was almost like computer says no, this is what we have, sorry. We were looking for grads, and that's absolutely changed, thankfully.
What would you say has been the Juice Academy's biggest achievement? Now, I'm sure there's probably been many, but even if it is a couple examples, but what would you say has been the biggest achievement over the past 10 years?
I just think looking at it from the widest perspective is just the jobs that we've created. It's almost 600 now, it will be after this next cohort, and the impact that that's had on those people, those individuals, but also Greater Manchester, the Northwest. That's what definitely our biggest achievement is creating those careers.
Yeah, and I love the fact that because we've now been going for almost 10 years, well, actually 10 years now, we've got some people who obviously have been in their jobs for 10 years, so now they're really senior, like Becca in Tangerine was promoted to account director last week.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's now running her own team, and obviously Becca and Nathan, they teach in the academy as well. So we've gone full circle, and we've had now apprentices who have not only been an apprentice, but they've actually come and employed their own apprentices from the Juice Academy. So that makes me feel very proud.
Yeah,
Amazing.
they're big successes when you see that, when you actually get to see that, like we did at the last boot camp. There was 3 people there that had been through the apprenticeship and come back to take their own. That's just seeing the success in front of you. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It must be so lovely for those individuals too to come so full circle, to have done the apprenticeship and to be kind of on the other side now. And that's really interesting. So now that we're in 2023, do you think that there's been a shift in people's perception of apprenticeships? So you kind of touched on this earlier, that there definitely has been. So what would you expand on that, maybe, Sandy?
I definitely think there has been. There was, as I said, there was a kind of an inverted snobbery against apprenticeships. People would see apprenticeships as, you're not clever enough to go to university, or you're not wealthy enough to go to university, so therefore you settle for an apprenticeship. And we know that's absolute nonsense, because we've got some incredibly bright apprentices that have come through, and were actually tried to be talked out of going on an apprenticeship by their teachers back in the day, because they were like, oh, you must go to university, you're really clever. And it's utter nonsense. People, it's not one thing or another. I think in any great organisation you want people from lots of different backgrounds, because they all bring different ways of thinking and being, and different life experiences. So, and I think people are finally getting that now, and they see, yes, you want some grads and you want some apprentices, and you want them all together, because that's what brings the magic.
Yeah. And I always say that people have chosen to do an apprenticeship. They've actually, I think it shows something about that person, because they've gone against the grain, whether that's choosing the apprenticeship instead of university, or they've decided to do an apprenticeship after university, or they're doing it for a career change. It's choosing something to invest in yourself and start this career that they know that they want to do. So they have a passion for this area already, and they know that they want to follow that through. So I think that shows something really special.
I think that's a really good point that not a lot of people know, is that they think, again, an apprenticeship is just for young people, and there's an upper age. Even yesterday I got asked, is there an upper age? There is no upper age. Anyway, what's the oldest one we've had? 35, I think.
I think a bit older than that even, but we've got Neve, who was on our most recent podcast, and she's 30, and she was a radiography assistant, and so total change of career. And I admire that. I absolutely do. I think it's
and within an organisation, you've got people that say, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to be that, I like what I'm seeing over there, can I be that? And so a lot more employers are realising that you can use apprenticeships to retrain your own team.
Definitely. And
it's a really good way of doing it, because they're still working for you, but while they're working for you, they're actually getting reskilled by the experts.
Someone said to me the other day that's sort of the golden goose lies in those retrainers, because they know that they want to do that. They've made that decision to change careers, retrain, so they've got a real passion for what they're retraining in.
I think it's about awareness, really, isn't it? I feel like it's that people just don't really know.
What would you say has been your favourite Juice moment if you've got one favourite moment, I'm sure there's loads like the other questions, but
I think mine was when I was really proud of the way we responded to COVID, for one thing. We talked for a long time about whether we could offer the Juice Academy virtually so that people in London and other cities could, get involved. But we never actually got round to doing it. And then when COVID happened, within a week, we were doing it. Like a lot of other organisations, that word pivot came about. But I think after that, what I loved was when we had our first graduation after lockdown, because for obviously for the whole of lockdown we couldn't do our graduation ceremonies, which meant a lot of the apprentices were graduating and not having the big celebration.
So it was 10 cohorts worth.
It was 10 cohorts, and it was just the best atmosphere, wasn't it? It was such a brilliant atmosphere. Everybody came in celebration mode because obviously nobody had really any events for a while. And everybody was really up for it, and it was just so lovely, wasn't it? It was about 100 people there.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. The buzz and it was like we're finally back together, and just to see all the different cohorts mingling with each other, and some had graduated finished a good couple of years previously. So yeah, that was brilliant. I agree with that, really. The only other one I would add is I remember my first year when I went to the Educate North Awards and we won the award. So even though I'd seen that we'd won many awards before, because I hadn't been part of it, walking up to the stage collecting the award, and I was just like, wow, I'm really part of something special here.
And the bizarre moment for that was when you went home in a taxi, and then I was out doing something different, networking. I got in a taxi, and the taxi driver said, somehow we managed to get the connection that the taxi had taken you home, and he told me that they'd won the award. It's so bizarre.
Just that mentioned
like the whole of Manchester was talking about us winning the award.
And so they should.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. No, that's such a funny story. Could you maybe list some of your top guest speakers or tutors, any that come to mind that you really think, this is what Juice is all about? What would you say?
Well, we've had, I think, 3 people that have literally taught every single cohort. Wow. So that's 10 years they've been coming to the Juice Academy every quarter and teaching, and they do it free of charge. They volunteer because they want to give their knowledge to the apprentices. How amazing is that?
Incredible. Yeah.
So we've had, I'll tell you about Ian Pettigrew. So Ian Pettigrew is a coach. And he's just the most amazing coach. He talks about life skills. He talks about positivity in how you get better at what you're good at. It's not about this is what you're good at, this is what you're bad at. He talks about how you focus on what you're good at, how you build on those strengths and make the most of those strengths. And he gives all of our apprentices such a lot of self-belief, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a really memorable session that for everyone. And Steve Kunkovic, obviously, he is again another one who's done every single session, and he's a lawyer, so he teaches all about social media and the law. He actually does 2 sessions for us, so he delivers one on sort of industry guidelines and comes back a couple of weeks later, and we do a fun task with him, and he loves it. He's buzzing when he walks into the room every time.
And these are people who could charge us thousands of pounds in their day rate is thousands of pounds, and they just come and volunteer because they want to help. It's just brilliant. Wow.
And then Kevin Taylor, sort of about halfway through, because he started when I started. So he's an ex-hostage negotiator, which we do keep as a surprise actually usually. So his story's just brilliant, and then his message is the key to sort of listening and influencing.
Amazing. Could you share any success stories of past apprentices who have gone on to successful careers in the industry? I know we've had quite a few, but any ones that come to mind?
Gosh, yeah. Well, we've got so many. The one that always comes to the forefront of my mind, because we still stay in touch regularly, and he's become a good friend. But Niall Wilson, after he graduated, he joined the Juice Academy team, so he was actually doing your job, Meg, and stayed with us for a couple of years, and then Tangerine nabbed him because they saw how amazing he was. So when he was like helping them out with the Christmas party content and stuff like that, they came to me and said, "Can we have Niall?" I said, "Let him spread his wings." So off he went to Tangerine, and he was probably there for couple of 2 or 3 years, and then before he got a job down in the Big Smoke in London. as a senior designer at Vodafone, and now he's just got a new role. He's starting next week as senior designer of Vogue.
Oh,
Wow.
Literally his dream job. He's a fashionista, you know. He's always got the fashion. He always looks amazing. So it's just a perfect job for him, and I'm just so pleased. And to add to the fact that he's 24, by the way. So.
Yeah, and we know quite a few of ours have gone off, literally flown the nest, in terms of, we've got one who's working over in Dubai, we've got one in Gibraltar who heads up a kind of a betting company in Gibraltar. You know, these are people who've been in the industry now for, say, 7, 8, 9 years, and several upstairs at Tangerine that have been with us quite a long time. So yeah, we know that they're all over the place, and everywhere you go now you kind of, and also what happens is they kind of come back, like we've had Corey again come back. It started as Juice went off and then came back, and so yeah, it just makes you feel really proud of and people say to me sometimes, God, your juices are everywhere, aren't they?
Well, I met a recruiter last week at a networking event, and he said, oh, the Juice Academy. He said, oh, I'm always so happy when I get a Juice Academy CV on my desk because I know that they're great. Oh. And I was like, oh, that's just made me feel fantastic. That. But it's true because the success stories are absolutely endless. And when you, because obviously Sandy and I, you know, we do a lot of networking, and we're out and about, and we bump into people we've not seen for a few years, and then we see where they're at, and we're like, wow, this is why we do what we do. To see that. It
just reminds you, doesn't it? Yeah. And you get the odd message on LinkedIn and that's saying, you know, I've just got my dream job and it's only because of the Juice Academy, and yeah, it's brilliant.
That's lovely. So what would you say, this goes to both of you, what advice would you give to future apprentices who want to achieve successes like this in their career?
I think when we take a new intake in, I always do my top 10 tips, and you do yours and that, don't you? And it's always that, be open to every opportunity, be always volunteering, always getting yourself out and about, meeting people in the real world. Don't just do it online, because there's so many opportunities, especially in this city. You know, you can, I always laugh and say you can have breakfast, lunch and dinner every day of the week, you know, out networking, because there's so many opportunities to meet people. And I think the more you do that, the more opportunities you come up against, and you realise that your career isn't just limited to just your company where you are. There's different ways in which you can get involved in things, and the more you do that, the more your career is going to fly. Yeah,
I can't bang that drum enough about, you know, being open, network, raise your profile. I think it can feel like such an intimidating thing at the start of your career, and when people are thinking, well, you know, why me? Should I really be going to these events? But the answer is yes. People who are more senior in their careers, they want to have fresh perspectives come in. They want to hear from your perspective, and you know, what you think and what's going on, and you know, they learn. We learn from each other. So I would say that's the absolute number one, and like, volunteer where you can, you know, be a yes person as much as you can, and just sort of keep that open mind. Don't sort of box yourself off at the start of your career. You know, you might think you have a focus, but keep an open mind and always try new things. And if you don't like it, that's fine, you move on. But you might find people genuinely get surprised that they find something that they didn't think that they like. So don't close yourself off. Just that would be my top tip.
Amazing.
Nice, amazing. And if, like, I suppose the flip side of that question, who are some of the great employers that you've had who've said, you know, really like apprentices and maybe have returned for several? What would you guys say?
Oh, we've had quite a few that do that. I mean, one of the biggest was Social Chain. They used to take our apprentices all the time, didn't they? And also Manchester Airport have taken several of our apprentices over the years. Gosh, I can't remember this.
Well, within Manchester Airport, we've had, even right now, I think we've got like 3 generations of the Juice Academy, with like the line managers having been an apprentice, then taking their own, and then so on. Checked Media is another big one. I think they had someone like in like the first cohort that's been there for 10 years.
Yeah, they grew their business via the academy. They had like literally their 2 directors, and then the next sort of 10 people were all Juice Academy people.
Wow.
Yeah. And same with Pixel Kicks as well. You know, Chris is very open that his, one of his key recruitment methods in his earlier days was through the Juice Academy.
He also takes loads of other apprentices, doesn't he, from different programmes?
Yeah,
so he's
to
a
do
real
different
fan
roles.
of apprenticeships.
Wow.
Love that, yeah, absolutely. And then in sort of more recent years, I've had Lightbulb come back a few times. Lightbulb Media just down the road, and Ira's obviously been on our podcast before.
Yeah.
Tangerine, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's not forget.
You've got to get your own product, haven't you?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's been many, and well, probably around 500 actually employers, and many of them have taken multiple, and we're just grateful for them because we couldn't exist without those opportunities.
Oh, shout out to the employers watching. Thank you very much. Brilliant. So the next question, Sandy, I'll pass this one on to you first.
Okay.
When you first set up the Juice Academy 10 years ago, did you envision what it would become now and all that it has become, I suppose?
No idea. No, we didn't have a clue. And we didn't have a clue how to run an apprenticeship either. We were just like, oh, this seems like a good idea. The National Apprenticeship Service were amazing. They really supported us in the early days. Obviously, we couldn't do that without them. And we said we were going to do it for a couple of years. We said, we'll do it for a couple of years, create some jobs, fill a skills gap. No idea it was going to last 10 years.
And get bigger and bigger.
And then change and morph and change again. No, we didn't have a clue. But it's been really rewarding, and everybody at Tangerine is so proud of it. And it's just an additional thing that the Tangerine guys do, and they see it as something that they're incredibly proud of. It always gets mentioned at all the AGMs and all the meetings and the staff meetings. And so it's something that we are incredibly proud of.
Oh, that's amazing. And for yourself, Georgia, I suppose from the time you joined, I think around 5 years ago or so.
6, actually.
6, wow. Oh, that's amazing. So I suppose, going back 6 years ago from when you joined, after the Juice Academy has been running for a couple of years, what kind of change have you seen? Or did you see that it would kind of continue to grow? What are your thoughts?
Well, I've seen lots of changes. In terms of my thoughts and where we would be in 6 years, just like Sandy, I had no idea. And actually, me coming into this, I had to learn 2 industries, the education industry and apprenticeship, as well as the marketing industry. Because I was actually, Sandy took a gamble on me really, because I was new to both, but had the sort of operational side behind me in previous roles. So it was just a huge learning curve for me those first few months, and I just was absorbing everything and learning. So I couldn't really envision what it would be, because as I was coming into it so new and fresh. But as we've gone along, and I've seen it just grow from strength to strength, and the quality, and partnering with Apprentify has been, one of the key things over the past 4 or 5 years, because they've just really ramped us up on the quality side and the apprenticeship side, and Ofsted, getting an Ofsted outstanding last year.
Amazing.
So
they have completely transformed us, haven't they? I mean, we were doing a good job, but since they've been on board, they've really kind of got us into a position where, I think the last X% high percentage of apprentices have ended up with a distinction.
Yeah, like over 90%.
Just, and they literally push us to be even better all the time, and they come and quality assess us. They make sure our trainers are doing a great job. They're just very, very good at what they do.
Yeah. So we've had bigger
and a bit scary.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've had bigger cohorts. We've had stronger cohorts. The quality is just grown and grown, and I'm just really proud of what's happened over the past 6 years since I've been here. Yeah.
So we've reflected back. What's the future of the Juice Academy?
Well, what we can tell you is that we are looking at getting additional trainers on board.
Ooh.
So as you know, we've only ever done one apprenticeship,
and
that was originally the digital marketing framework, and is now the content producer standard. But now we're going to look at getting additional trainers. So whereas Tangerine is currently our only trainer, we're now looking at other trainers, other companies to come in and do exactly what Tangerine does. So we're looking at really top-notch businesses in their sector to come and offer an additional apprenticeship. So our first 2, I can exclusively reveal, are Smoking Gun, PR.
Nice.
They're going to come and offer the PR standard. And Jane Montague Consultancy, who's a real top-notch specialist in the charity world, is going to offer the charity fundraiser apprenticeship.
That's
So
amazing.
I think that one's going to be really
exciting.
popular because so many charities out there need support with their fundraising, and she's very, very good at what she does. So as you see, we're choosing the same as Tangerine's brilliant in the digital marketing arena. Smoking Gun are brilliant in PR, Jane's brilliant in charities. That's what we're looking for, is additional trainers who want to help us and do more. So we're going to be very careful about it. We're not going to rush it and grow it too fast.
Yeah.
They're the only two we have at the moment, and they're going to be come on board around about summer this year.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
How exciting! I can't wait to see
Exclusive
all of
reveal.
that.
Yeah. That is exclusive
Wow!
reveal.
You
Surprised you
Heard
with that
it
one,
first on the
didn't
podcast.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the questions, guys.
Time's flown.
Time has flown, so thank you very much for that.
Brilliant. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us and being on the podcast, both of you. It's been really, really fascinating just hearing all the different sort of stories and how Juice started. So if you would like to become a Content Creator Apprentice, then hop over to our website, www.juiceacademy.co.uk, and head to the Apprentices tab for lots of information and to apply. And if you'd like to become an employer and hire your own apprentice, then again, head over to the website and get in touch with us.
Oh, amazing! Once again, thank you very much both for joining us. Any last words from yourself, Sandy, that you'd like to share?
No, just thanks again for having me, and here's to the next 10 years.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, agree with that. Here's the next 10 years.
Amazing.
Oh,
Thank
brilliant!
you so much.
Catch
See
you
you
guys
later,
next
everyone.
time. Bye! Woo! We did it, guys! That's amazing! Yeah!
10 years, 10 years.
10 years!
Did you like our exclusive reveal?
I loved it.
I know, I was shocked.